The ruins of New Seoul still burned when Captain Junho received the news. His wife had been there. His 2 children. His parents. 4 million people gone in a purple flash of alien weapons fire. He stood on the bridge of his stealth frigate, a ship so advanced that most governments didn't admit it existed. The frigate was covered in material that absorbed sensors instead of reflecting them. It could drift through space like a ghost. Junho's hands were steady as he plotted his course. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. They all knew what he had lost. They all knew what he was going to do. "Take us into the alien fleet," Junho said quietly. "Find their capital ships. We're going hunting." The stealth frigate slipped past the outer defense perimeter of the Velkari fleet. The aliens were too busy fighting the main human force to notice one small ship running on minimal power. Junho positioned his ship right behind a massive alien carrier. "Range to target?" he asked. 50 meters, sir, 50 meters. Close enough to touch." The alien crew had no idea a human ship was floating right behind them. "Fire everything," Junho said. Torpedoes launched at point-blank range. They hit the carrier's engines before the aliens even knew they were under attack. The explosion was massive. The carrier broke in half, its fuel reserves igniting in a chain reaction. Junho didn't watch. He was already moving to the next target. Deep underground on Earth, engineer Sora worked in a facility that was built to survive nuclear war. She was young, only 26, but she was brilliant. And right now she was building weapons that would make nuclear bombs look gentle. "The containment fields are stable," her assistant reported. Sora looked at the 3 missiles on her workbench. Inside each warhead was antimatter. Not a lot. Just enough to create an explosion that would make a nuclear blast look like a firecracker. The problem with antimatter was containment. If the magnetic fields failed, the antimatter would touch normal matter and both would be destroyed in a burst of pure energy. It was the most dangerous weapon humanity had ever created, and Sora had built 3 of them in 8 hours. "These aren't clean," she told her team. "When these explode, they'll create expanding fields of annihilation. Everything they touch will be destroyed at the molecular level. We can't use these near Earth. Where will we use them?" Sora's expression was hard. "On their homeworld. After we find it." Dr. Minji worked in her laboratory studying samples of Velkari biology taken from the wreckage of destroyed ships. She hated what she was doing. Her entire career had been about understanding alien life, maybe even learning to communicate with it. Now she was looking for ways to kill it. "Their respiratory system is similar to ours," she told Yuna. "They breathe oxygen. But there are differences in their blood chemistry. Can we exploit that?" Minji pulled up a molecular model. "Maybe we have chemical weapons in storage. Old stuff from wars we promised never to use again. If we modify the nerve agent with quantum markers, it might be lethal to them but less harmful to humans." "That's biological warfare," Yuna said quietly. "I know," Minji said. She looked sick. "I know what this makes us. But they killed 10 million people. They're trying to make us extinct. We do what we have to do." Admiral Do-hyun studied the tactical situation. The human forces had taken horrible losses. 200 spacecraft destroyed. Orbital platforms gone. 3 major cities burning. But the alien fleet was hurting too. They were down to 120 ships and more were being destroyed every minute. "The aliens are trying to regroup," his tactical officer reported. "They're pulling back to a defensive formation." "Don't let them," Do-hyun ordered. "Press the attack. Every ship we have. Don't give them time to recover." President Hana entered the command center. She looked like she had aged 10 years in the last few hours. "Admiral, I'm authorizing the use of all weapons. Everything we have. No restrictions." Do-hyun understood what she meant. The chemical weapons. The biological agents. The terrible things humanity had promised never to use again. "Madam President, are you sure?" "Once we go down that path." "They bombed our cities from orbit," Hana interrupted. "They killed children, hospitals, schools. I'm done fighting fair." "Kill them all," the order went out. Human ships began using weapons that had been banned by international treaty. Gas clouds that ate through ship hulls. Biological weapons that shut down Velkari nervous systems. Radiation bombs that poisoned enemy vessels from the inside. It was brutal. Ugly. War crimes by any standard. But humanity had learned a hard lesson. When fighting for survival, there are no rules. Captain Hyejin flew her damaged fighter through the wreckage of the battle. Her fuel was almost gone. One engine was dead, but she wasn't done fighting. Jiwoo, how many missiles do we have left? She asked. Jiwoo checked the weapons panel. 4, and they're all damaged. Might not even fire. Good enough. Heejin spotted an alien destroyer trying to retreat. She pushed her damaged fighter to maximum speed. Let's see if they work. The missiles fired. 3 of them exploded harmlessly, but the 4th hit the destroyer's shield generator. The shield flickered and died. Someone finish him. Hajin broadcast 3 other human ships converged on the now vulnerable destroyer. It tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. It exploded in a ball of fire. The Conqueror of Skies watched his fleet being torn apart and finally accepted the truth. These humans weren't going to surrender. They were going to fight until either they won or everyone was dead. And worse, they were winning. Recall all ships, he ordered. We're withdrawing from this system. Commander, we can't withdraw. Our honor won't matter if we're all dead. The Conqueror roared. These creatures are insane. They fight like demons. They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. I've never seen anything like this. But withdrawal was harder than arriving. The human forces harassed them every step of the way. Fighters swooped in for hit-and-run attacks. The remaining drones continued their endless assault. And Captain Junho's stealth frigate kept appearing out of nowhere to destroy ships before vanishing again. By the time the Velkari fleet reached the edge of Earth's solar system, they had lost 180 ships. 180 ships from the finest fleet in the Velkari Empire, destroyed by humans who weren't even supposed to have interstellar technology. Commander Seojin watched the alien fleet retreat from his damaged moon base. Half his crew was dead. The base itself was barely functional. But they had won. Should we pursue? His second-in-command asked. Seojin thought about it. They could chase the aliens, try to destroy more ships, but his forces were exhausted. Many ships were too damaged to continue. And there was something else. No, Seojin said. Let them go. Let them tell their empire what happened here. Admiral Do-hyun stood in front of President Hana. We've won the battle. The alien fleet is running. At what cost? Hana asked. 18 million civilian dead. 12,000 military personnel. 2 major cities destroyed. 500 spacecraft lost. The moon base is heavily damaged. But we're alive. Earth is still ours. Hana closed her eyes. 18 million people. 18 million lives that she was responsible for. But if she had surrendered, all 8 billion would have become slaves. What about the aliens? She asked. They're limping back to wherever they came from. We captured some of their database during Lieutenant Nari's hack. Dr. Minji is analyzing it now. Dr. Minji appeared on a screen. She looked exhausted. Madam President, I've translated some of the alien data. The Velkari Empire controls 47 star systems. They've conquered dozens of species, but they've never faced resistance like ours. Good, Hana said, because we're not done fighting. Those aliens know where Earth is. They'll come back, probably with more ships. We need to take the fight to them. Take the fight to them? Do-hyun repeated. Madam President, we barely survived this attack. Which is why we can't wait for the next one, Hana said. We're going to do something they won't expect. We're going to attack them. We're going to free every species they've enslaved. And we're going to make sure the Velkari Empire never threatens anyone again. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she was proposing. Humanity was going to go to war. Not a defensive war, an offensive one. They were going to take ships that were barely spaceworthy and attack an empire that spanned dozens of star systems. It was crazy, suicidal, impossible. But then again, the Velkari had thought beating Earth was impossible too. And look how that turned out. Commander Seojin volunteered immediately. I'll lead the strike force. We'll use the navigation data from the captured alien ships. Captain Junho also volunteered. He had nothing left to lose. His family was gone. All he had left was revenge. Engineer Sora finished her antimatter missiles and prepared them for loading onto the fastest ships humanity had. And across Earth, despite their grief and losses, people prepared for the next phase of the war. Because humans had learned something important. When you knock them down, they get back up. When you hurt them, they get angry. And when you threaten their extinction, they become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The Velkari had started this war thinking it would be easy. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The Velkari fleet moved toward Earth like a swarm of metal predators. 300 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to level a city. The conqueror of skies watched the blue planet grow larger on his screens and felt satisfied. This would be an easy victory. Bring us into high orbit, he commanded. Prepare to broadcast final surrender terms. His weapons officer looked up from his station. Commander, I'm detecting unusual readings from the planet's moon. Unusual how? Energy signatures. Multiple locations. They're powering up something. The conqueror waved a clawed hand dismissively. Probably their primitive defense systems. Nothing that can harm us. Continue the approach. On the moon, Commander Seojin watched the alien fleet getting closer. His heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. Around him, his team sat at their stations, ready. Distance to target, he asked. 30,000 kilometers and closing. Lock all railguns on the lead ships. Firing solution? Locked and ready, sir. Seojin took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would decide if humanity lived or died. He thought about his daughter back on Earth. She was only 8 years old. He was doing this for her. For all the children who deserved a future. Fire, he said. The moon shook. 20 massive railguns fired at once. They launched solid tungsten rods, each one weighing several tons, accelerated to incredible speeds. The rods were moving so fast they became almost invisible. The alien fleet's shields were strong. They could stop energy weapons and missiles. But these weren't energy weapons. These were chunks of metal moving at a fraction of light speed. 3 alien ships exploded, just gone. 1 second they were there, the next they were clouds of debris. The rods had punched through their shields like they weren't even there. The conqueror of skies jumped from his throne. What happened? Report. We've lost ships 7, 13, and 21. The humans fired kinetic projectiles from their moon. Our shields didn't stop them. Impossible? Kinetic weapons at that speed would require technology we don't. He stopped. The humans weren't supposed to have this technology. But they did, which meant everything the Velkari knew about humans was wrong. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Return fire on that moon base. Purple energy beams lanced out from the alien fleet toward the moon. The blasts were powerful enough to vaporize mountains. But Seojin's base was deep underground, protected by hundreds of feet of rock and advanced armor. They're shooting at us, one of his officers said calmly. Surface installations taking damage. Let them waste ammunition, Seojin said. Reload the railguns. Fire at will. On Mars, Colonel Taeyang gave his order. Release the swarm. Hidden bays opened across Mars's surface. Millions of small drones launched into space. They moved in coordinated groups, each group acting like a school of fish or a flock of birds. The alien sensors detected them immediately. Commander, we have incoming projectiles. Millions of them. Small objects moving fast. The conqueror studied his screens. Millions, that was impossible. No species used that many individual weapons. It was inefficient, wasteful, active point defense. Shoot them down. The alien ships opened fire with thousands of small automatic guns designed to destroy missiles. They hit hundreds of drones, thousands, but there were millions. And the drones were learning. Each time a drone was destroyed, it transmitted data back to the others. The swarm learned which approaches got shot down. Which angles were safe. Which ships had weak points in their defense coverage. The first drone reached an alien cruiser and exploded against its shield. The shield held. But then 10 more drones hit the same spot. Then 100. Then 1,000. The shield flickered and died. The next wave of drones slammed into the cruiser's hull. Explosions ripped across its surface. The ship began to list, then broke apart. We've lost ship 34, an officer shouted. And 41. 56 is going critical. The conqueror watched in growing horror as his fleet took damage from weapons the size of his fist. This wasn't how wars were supposed to work. Where were the massive ship-to-ship battles? Where was the honor? Then Lieutenant Nari's virus activated. Inside the alien computer systems, hidden code that had been waiting silently suddenly came alive. It spread through the network like wildfire. Ships that were targeting human positions suddenly locked onto their own fleet members. Communication channels filled with garbage data. Fire control systems crashed and rebooted. Commander, we're losing system control. Something is in our network.
Shut down all external communications.
Cut the network connections. But it was too late. The virus had already spread to most of the fleet. 20 ships fired on each other before their crews could stop them. Shields went down at random. Weapons systems locked up. Admiral Do Yun watched from Earth and smiled. Now, Launch all fighters. 600 human spacecraft rose from Earth. Most were small, fast attack ships. Some were retrofitted mining vessels. A few were actual military destroyers. They didn't have the aliens' advanced shields or powerful weapons, but they had human pilots. The human ships dove into the chaos of the alien fleet. They flew like maniacs, dodging between the massive alien warships, firing everything they had: missiles, bullets, even old-fashioned chemical rockets. Captain Jiwoo sat in the co-pilot seat of a fighter, his hands gripping the controls. The pilot next to him was a young woman named Hyejin who flew like she was dancing. "Hold on," Hyejin said, and then she flipped their ship upside down and dove under an alien cruiser, firing their guns at what looked like sensor arrays. "You're crazy," Jiwoo shouted. "Probably," Hyejin laughed. "But I'm alive." From Earth's surface, massive railguns hidden inside mountains opened fire. Laser platforms in orbit created webs of deadly light. The Velkari fleet, expecting an easy conquest, found itself in a killing field. But the aliens were warriors. They had conquered 47 worlds. They weren't going to run from one battle. The Conqueror of Skies got his fleet organized. The ships formed defensive clusters supporting each other. They targeted the human fighters with focused fire. Earth's orbital platforms were hit with sustained bombardment. "Concentrate fire on the planet's population centers," the Conqueror ordered. "Break their will to fight." Plasma beams lanced down from orbit. They hit cities across Earth: New Seoul, Mumbai, Cairo, São Paulo. Each blast killed millions in seconds. Buildings vaporized. People died before they even knew what was happening. The death toll climbed. 2 million, 5 million, 10 million died in the command center. President Hana watched the casualty reports and felt her heart break. But she didn't look away. She owed it to the dead to witness what her decision had cost. "Madam President," Admiral Doyun said quietly, "we can still surrender. Save who's left." Hana thought about it. Surrender would save billions. But it would also condemn humanity to slavery, to slow extinction, to being conquered by creatures who killed 10 million people just to make a point. "No," she said. "We fight until we win or we're all dead. Send a message to all units. Any ship captain who wants to ram an alien vessel has permission to do so." The message went out, and human captains who had lost their families, their homes, their world, made their choice. A cargo ship called Dawn's Light, its weapons exhausted, turned toward an alien battleship and accelerated. The crew of 12 had all voted. They hit the alien ship at full speed, their reactor overloading on impact. The resulting explosion destroyed both ships. Other ships followed. Damaged destroyers, crippled fighters, even a civilian transport whose captain's entire family had died in Mumbai. They became missiles, guided by anger, driven by grief, unstoppable. The Velkari had never seen anything like it. What species sacrificed themselves like this? What kind of madness was this? They were learning the answer. They were fighting humans, and humans, when pushed to extinction, would drag their enemy down with them. The battle raged for 8 hours. The space around Earth became a graveyard of ships from both sides. The moon base was heavily damaged but still firing. The Mars swarm was down to 1 million drones. Earth's cities burned, but the alien fleet was down to 200 ships, then 180, then 150. The Conqueror of Skies looked at his casualty reports and felt something he hadn't felt in his long military career. Fear. The world didn't panic. That was the first thing that surprised Commander Seojin as he watched the news feeds from his station on the moon. When President Hana announced that alien warships were approaching Earth, people didn't riot. They didn't run. They got ready. Maybe it was because humanity had lived with the fear of extinction for so long. Nuclear weapons, climate change, pandemics. People had learned to face terrible things. Or maybe it was something deeper, something in human nature that refused to bow down, even when facing impossible odds. Seojin turned away from the news and looked at his team. They were young, most of them. Born on the moon or Mars, they had never seen Earth's blue oceans except through pictures. But they were ready to die for it. "All right, listen up," Seojin said. "We have 68 hours until the alien fleet arrives. Our job is to make sure they regret every second of those last few hours. Start bringing the defense platforms online. All of them." The moon base had been built over 30 years. On the surface, it looked like a simple mining and research facility. Below the surface, it was something else entirely. Massive railguns that could fire projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. Nuclear missiles. Laser arrays powerful enough to cut through ship hulls from thousands of miles away. Back on Earth, Dr. Minji worked in a laboratory that didn't officially exist. She hadn't slept since the alien message arrived. Her team was analyzing every frame of footage from Jiwoo's encounter, looking for weaknesses. There, she said, pointing at a screen. Watch the shields when our captain tried to transmit on different frequencies. Her assistant Yuna leaned closer. The shields flicker. Just for a millisecond. Exactly. Their shield technology operates on a rotating frequency pattern. They cycle through different energy levels to protect against various weapons. But there's a gap. A tiny window where the shields are changing from one frequency to another. Can we exploit that? Yuna asked. Minji smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Get me Admiral Do-hyun. We have work to do. On Mars, Colonel Tae-yang walked through a hangar that stretched for miles underground. Inside were millions of small objects, each the size of a human fist. They looked harmless, like toys. But each one was a fully independent drone with its own computer brain and enough explosive power to tear through metal. How many are operational? Tae-yang asked his chief engineer. 4,300,000. We can have another million ready in 2 days. We don't have 2 days. Get them all ready now. I don't care if you have to work through the night. The engineer nodded. Sir, can I ask a question? Will this be enough? 4 million drones against 300 warships? Tae-yang looked at the endless rows of drones. The aliens have shields. They have big guns. They have armor. But they're thinking like conquerors. They expect us to roll over. They've never faced an enemy that fights with numbers and brains instead of just bigger weapons. These little drones are going to teach them a lesson. In a facility hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains, Lieutenant Nari stared at lines of code scrolling across her screen. She was humanity's best cyber warfare specialist. Her job was simple and impossible. Hack into an alien computer system that humans didn't understand. It's not possible, one of her teammates said. We don't know their programming language. We don't know their operating systems. This is like trying to hack a computer from the year 3000 using technology from 1950. Nari didn't look away from her screen. They sent us a message. That message had to be translated by their computers into something we could understand. That means their computers can communicate with ours at least a little bit. Every communication is a doorway. We just need to find the key. She had been working for 30 hours straight. Her eyes burned. Her fingers ached, but she kept typing. Because if she failed, billions of people would die. Then she saw it. A tiny gap in the alien communication protocol, a place where their computers checked for responses. If she could slip code into that check disguised as a simple acknowledgement signal. I'm in, she whispered. Oh my God, I'm in. Her teammate rushed over. You hacked them? Not hacked, not yet. But I found the door. Now I need to figure out how to walk through it without them noticing. Admiral Do-hyun stood in the United Earth Defense Force Command Center. Screens covered every wall, showing the positions of every human military asset. Ships were moving into position. Soldiers were boarding spacecraft. Factories were running at full capacity, building weapons and ammunition. President Hana entered the room. Give me the situation, Admiral. Every nation has contributed their military forces. We have 600 spacecraft of various sizes. Most are retrofitted civilian ships with weapons bolted on. But they can fight. The moon base is operational. Mars defense grid is active. We have weapon platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Against 300 alien warships, Hana said. Against 300 alien warships that think we're primitive, Do-hyun corrected. They sent us that message to scare us, to make us surrender. But that message also gave us information. It told us they speak dozens of languages, which means they've conquered dozens of species. It told us they see this as routine. They're arrogant. Arrogance can be useful, Hana agreed. What about casualties? Worst case, Do-hyun's face grew dark. If they target population centers, we could lose billions in the first hour. Best case, if we can keep the fighting in space, maybe a few million. A few million. The number hung in the air like poison. But what choice did they have? Surrender meant slavery or extinction. At least fighting gave them a chance. There's something else, Do-hyun said. He pulled up an image of the alien fleet. Dr. Minji's team analyzed their formation. The ships are arranged in a pattern that suggests they're protecting something in the center. Something big. Their command ship? Probably. If we can destroy that, the rest might retreat. Or they might go crazy and kill everyone, Hana said. War is unpredictable. War with humans is especially unpredictable, Do-hyun said with a grim smile. These aliens have no idea what they're walking into. The countdown continued. 60 hours, 50 hours, 40 hours. All across the solar system, humans prepared. Weapons were loaded. Ships were launched. Families said goodbye, knowing many would never see each other again. Captain Jiwoo, rescued from his escape pod by a military ship, stood on the bridge of the destroyer Incheon. The captain had given him a uniform and a position. You were the first human they attacked, the captain said. You deserve to be here when we hit back. Jiwoo looked at the tactical display showing the approaching alien fleet. His hand still shook when he thought about his ship exploding. But the fear was changing into something else. Something harder. Something angry. The alien commander, whose name translated roughly to Conqueror of Skies, sat in his command throne and watched the approaching blue planet. It was beautiful, rich with water and life. His species would take it easily like they had taken all the others. His second officer approached. Commander, the humans sent a response to our message. Surrender terms? No, sir, they said come and try. The Conqueror of Skies laughed. It was a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. Brave words from a species that hasn't left their own star system. Prepare the fleet for standard conquest formation. We'll give them one more chance to surrender after we destroy a few cities. He had used this strategy 47 times. It always worked. He didn't know that humanity had spent a century preparing. He didn't know about the hidden weapons. He didn't know that humans studied war like some species studied art. He didn't know that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was the absolute refusal to give up. Even when losing, the timer hit 0. The alien fleet entered Earth's orbital space. The war began. The cargo ship moved slowly through the darkness near Jupiter. Captain Jiwoo sat in his chair, watching the screens show nothing but stars and empty space. He had made this run 100 times before. Earth to the mining stations on Ganymede and back. Boring work, but it paid well. His coffee was getting cold when the alarms started screaming. Jiwoo jumped up and stared at the main screen. Something massive had just appeared. Not appeared slowly like a ship coming from far away. Just appeared like someone had turned on a light in a dark room. The ship was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. It was black and red with sharp edges that looked like teeth. Jiwoo had never seen anything like it in his 15 years of space travel. His hands shook as he reached for the communication controls. This is civilian vessel Morning Star to unknown ship. I mean no harm. Please identify yourself. The response came immediately, but not in any language Jiwoo knew. The sounds were harsh like metal scraping on metal. Then his computer started translating the message into Korean, then English, then every language humans spoke. Attention, primitive species. This system now belongs to the Velkari Empire. You have entered our territory without permission. Your species will surrender all worlds and resources to Velkari control. Resistance will result in complete extinction. You have been warned. Jiwoo's heart pounded in his chest. Wait, this is our system. We've been here for thousands of years. There must be some mistake. He was still talking when the alien ship fired. The beam of energy was bright purple. It cut through his ship like a hot knife through butter. Alarms screamed as the cargo hold exploded. The air rushed out into space. Jiwoo's seatbelt was the only thing keeping him from being sucked out. He grabbed his emergency helmet and slammed it on his head. His fingers moved fast, hitting the emergency launch for the escape pod. The small pod shot away from the dying ship, just as another beam cut through the captain's deck. Inside the tiny pod, Jiwoo watched his ship break apart. 5 years of savings. His home in space. Gone in seconds. But he was alive and the pod was recording everything. The data was already transmitting back to Earth. The alien ship didn't follow him. It just sat there in space, like a predator that had swatted a fly and was now waiting for bigger prey. On Earth, President Hana was sleeping when her security team burst into her bedroom. Madam President, we have a situation. 10 minutes later, she sat in the command center deep under the Blue House. The room was filled with military officers and scientists, all watching the same footage that Jiwoo's pod had sent back. Play it again, Hana said. They watched the alien ship destroy the Morning Star. They listened to the message. Every person in the room understood what it meant. After all the years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. And the answer had just declared war. Admiral Do-hyun stood next to a large display showing Earth's defensive positions. He was an old man with gray hair, but his eyes were sharp. "Madam President, our satellites detected the ship's arrival. It used some kind of faster-than-light travel we don't understand. The energy readings are massive. How long until they reach Earth?" Hana asked. "Based on their current speed, about 70 hours. A woman in a white lab coat stepped forward. Dr. Minji was the world's leading expert on the possibility of alien life. For 20 years, she had studied what aliens might look like, how they might think. Now her theories were being tested in the worst way possible. "I've analyzed the footage frame by frame," Minji said. "I can see crew members moving inside their ship through the windows. They're bipedal, similar body structure to humans, but larger. The important thing is their behavior. They didn't try to communicate beyond that first message. They just attacked. What does that tell us?" Hana asked. "They've done this before. Many times. This is a routine conquest for them. They expect us to surrender or die." The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Humanity had fought many wars against itself. World War I, World War II, smaller conflicts that still killed millions. But this was different. This was a war for survival against an enemy from the stars. A young officer spoke up. "We're detecting more ships arriving. 300 at last count. They're forming up at the edge of our solar system. 300 warships. Each one probably as powerful as the ship that destroyed Jiwoo's cargo vessel. Earth had weapons, but nothing designed to fight in space like this." Or so the aliens thought. Admiral Do-hyun walked to the main display and typed in a code. The screen changed, showing hidden military installations across the solar system. Bases on the moon. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids. Ships hidden in the shadow of Mars. "Madam President," Do-hyun said quietly, "it's time to activate Protocol Nightfall." Hana looked at the screen. Humanity had spent the last 100 years preparing for this day. Ever since the first radio signals had been sent into space, scientists had worried about who might hear them, might answer them, might come looking, so they prepared in secret. While the world fought over resources and politics, a hidden group had been building defenses, just in case. "How long until we're ready?" Hana asked. "We can be fully operational in 24 hours. Hana stood up and looked at everyone in the room. "Send a message to every nation on Earth. Tell them what's happening. Tell them we need everyone. Every soldier, every scientist, every factory. We have 70 hours to save our world." She paused, then added, "And send a message back to those aliens. Tell them that Captain Jiwoo survived. Tell them that we received their declaration of war. And tell them that Earth's response is this: come and try." Across the solar system, the alien fleet began moving toward Earth. They had conquered 47 worlds before this one. They had destroyed species that had been traveling through space for thousands of years. They had weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop any attack. But they had never fought humans before. They were about to learn why that was a mistake. Commander Seojin stood on the bridge of the Incheon, leading a fleet of 60 ships through the faster-than-light tunnel. They had stolen the navigation data from captured Valkyrie computers. Now they were using the aliens' own travel routes to strike back. "How long until we reach the target?" Seojin asked. 30 minutes, the navigation officer replied. "We're approaching the system the aliens call Talvos. According to the database, they conquered this world 10 years ago." Seojin studied the intelligence reports. Talvos was home to a species that looked like large birds. The Valkyrie had attacked them, destroyed their defenses, and enslaved their population. Now the planet served as a supply depot for the Empire. Any sign of defensive fleets? 3 Valkyrie warships in orbit. They're not on alert. "They don't know we're coming," Seojin smiled. The aliens had never been attacked before. They didn't know how to defend their own territory because they had never needed to. That was about to change. "All ships, prepare weapons. We're going in fast and hard. Hit the Valkyrie ships first. Then we broadcast our message to the people on the planet." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel right on top of the unsuspecting Valkyrie ships. The aliens barely had time to raise shields before missiles and railgun rounds tore into them. One ship exploded immediately. The other 2 tried to run, but were destroyed within minutes. Seojin opened a communication channel to the planet below. He had Lieutenant Nari's team prepare a message in the local language. "People of Talvos, we are humans from the planet Earth. The Valkyrie attacked our world. They failed. Now we're here to help you. Fight back against your masters and we'll fight beside you. Together we can be free. For a moment nothing happened. Seojin worried that the message hadn't worked. Maybe the translation was wrong. Maybe the people below were too beaten down to resist. Then the sensors showed explosions across the planet's surface. The enslaved population was rising up. They attacked Velkari garrisons. They sabotaged supply depots. They fought with whatever weapons they could find. Send down support teams, Seojin ordered. Weapons, medical supplies, everything we can spare. And someone get me a translation interface. I want to talk to their leaders. The battle for Talvos lasted 72 hours. The Velkari garrison fought hard, but they were caught between the human fleet in orbit and an angry population on the ground. When it was over, Talvos was free for the first time in a decade. The leader of the Talvos people, whose name translated as Sky Singer, met with Seojun in person. They communicated through computer translation. Why did you help us? Sky Singer asked. What do you want from our world? Nothing, Seojun said. We just want the Velkari to pay for what they did. They killed 18 million of my people. They tried to make us slaves. Every world we free is one less resource for them. Then you are going to attack other worlds? Everyone we can reach. The Velkari Empire ends now. Sky Singer spread their wing-like arms. Then Talvos will fight beside you. We have ships. Not many, but we will give you what we have. And we will tell the other conquered peoples that resistance is possible, that the Velkari can be beaten. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Lieutenant Nari had achieved what everyone said was impossible. She had complete access to the Velkari computer network. She could read their military communications, watch their ship movements, and most importantly, she had found the location of their homeworld. Got you, she whispered, marking the coordinates. Then she sent an encrypted message to Captain Jiwoo, who was leading a separate strike force. Captain Jiwoo received the coordinates while his ship was refueling at Mars. His mission was different from Seojin's. He wasn't liberating conquered worlds. He was delivering a message directly to the people who had ordered the attack on Earth. His ship was the fastest humanity had ever built. It had been designed for one purpose, to reach the Velkari homeworld before they could organize a counterattack on Earth. Set course for these coordinates, Jiwoo told his pilot. Maximum speed. Sir, that's their homeworld. If we go there, we probably won't come back. I know, Jiwoo said. He thought about his destroyed cargo ship, his lost life, the family he would never see again because they died in New Seoul. But we're going anyway. Engineer Sora had loaded 3 antimatter missiles onto Jiwoo's ship personally. Each one was capable of destroying a continent. She had looked at him and said, use them if you have to. But remember, there are civilians on that world, people who didn't choose this war. Now, as Jiwoo's ship traveled through the void between stars, he thought about her words. How many Velkari children lived on that homeworld? How many regular people who just wanted to live their lives? But then he thought about human children who died in New Seoul, who died in Mumbai and Cairo and Sao Paulo. War didn't care about fair. War cared about survival. Back in the Talvos system, Commander Seojin's fleet grew larger. Ships from the liberated species joined him. They were old ships, poorly maintained after years of Velkari occupation. But they could fight, and their crews wanted revenge. Commander, we're receiving a distress call from the Kelmar system, another liberated world. The Velkari sent a fleet to recapture it. Seojin checked the distance. 3 days travel at maximum speed. How big is the Velkari fleet? 20 ships, we have 40. Let's go teach them another lesson. The battle for Kelmar was brutal. The Velkari had learned from their defeat at Earth. They were more cautious now, more strategic, but they were also scared. Their admiral kept his ships in a defensive formation, afraid of tricks and traps. Seojin used that fear. He sent damaged ships forward, making them look like easy targets. When the Velkari focused on those ships, the rest of his fleet hit them from behind. It was the oldest trick in warfare, but it worked. The Velkari fleet was destroyed. Kelmar remained free. News of the human victories spread through the Velkari Empire like wildfire. Conquered species began to hope. Velkari commanders began to worry, and the Velkari leadership, safe on their homeworld, finally understood the terrible mistake they had made. They had awakened something in humans, something that had been sleeping. The ancient human instinct for war, for survival, for revenge. The Velkari High Council called an emergency meeting. The humans are destroying our occupation forces. They're freeing our conquered worlds. If this continues, the Empire will collapse. Send more ships, one council member said. Send everything we have. We can't, the military commander replied. Our ships are scattered across 47 systems. If we pull them all back to defend our core worlds, we'll lose the outer territories. If we don't pull them back, the humans will destroy them one by one. Then what do? Nobody had an answer. For the first time in their history, the Velkari Empire faced an enemy they couldn't simply crush with overwhelming force. That's when Captain Jiwoo's ship appeared in their home system. The alarm started immediately. Velkari Home Defense detected an unknown vessel approaching at high speed. Fighters launched. Orbital platforms armed weapons. The entire planet went on alert. Jiwoo broadcast on every frequency. His message was simple and clear, translated into the Velkari language by Lieutenant Nari's programs. People of the Velkari homeworld, I am Captain Jiwoo of Earth. You attacked my planet. You killed my people. You tried to make us extinct. Now I'm here to show you what that feels like. His ship released the first antimatter missile. It wasn't aimed at the planet. It was aimed at the outer system, at 3 moons that orbited an empty gas giant. The missile detonated. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. It looked like a new sun had appeared in their sky. The 3 moons just vanished. Gone. Turned into expanding clouds of energy that would reach the planet in 6 hours. Jiwoo broadcast again. That was 1 missile. I have 2 more. Here are my terms. Your leaders, the ones who ordered the attack on Earth, will face justice. Your empire will dissolve. Every species you enslaved will be freed. You will pay reparations for the damage you've caused, and you will swear before your entire population never to wage war of conquest again. If you agree to these terms, I will stop. If you refuse, I will destroy your homeworld. You have 6 hours to decide. That's how long it takes for the explosion to reach you. The Velkari High Council erupted in chaos. He's bluffing. No species would commit genocide. He just destroyed 3 moons. That wasn't a bluff. Send every ship. Kill him! But Jiwoo's ship was too fast. Every time Velkari fighters got close, he accelerated away. And the timer kept counting down. 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours. The Velkari population watched the expanding explosion in their sky and felt real fear for the first time. This was what their empire had done to other species. This was what it felt like to face extinction. With 3 hours remaining, the Velkari leadership made their decision. They couldn't risk it. They couldn't gamble that this human was bluffing, not when 3 billion lives were at stake. They surrendered. Admiral Do-hyun received the news on Earth. The Velkari Empire had agreed to all terms. The war was over. Humanity had won. President Hana sat in her office and cried. Not tears of joy, tears of grief. 18 million people had died. Cities were destroyed. The price of victory was almost too high to bear, but they had survived. Earth was safe, and the galaxy now knew that humanity was not to be threatened.